The financial payment platform is changing very quickly. There are a lot of constraints and pressures on the banking community at large to create what we call a real-time payment environment. Corporates and people want to receive their money as soon as possible. They want an immediate payment into their accounts. And hence there has been a very strong movement within the banking community at SWIFT to adopt a new standard or a new regulation under the name of the Global Payment Innovation Standards. And this, in brief, actually helps the banks to communicate with each other in a much faster mode and to create what we call a straight-through processing environment within the banking sector, within the back office of the banking sector, to diminish the time that is already existing today, that when the money is received from any cross-border country, to be credited or debited in the accounts of the beneficiaries same day or as soon as possible, let's say. Today, this in many countries in Africa, where we come from, for example in Egypt, we can stay maybe 5 days to 7 days until we receive the money. Other areas in Africa can stay 10 days to 15 days. This is no longer acceptable in the 21st century, moving forward in real-time payments in this world. So there is a movement, a strong movement towards doing a real-time payment strategy. Our endeavor in this area as a solution provider, we are a company called eVision. We are based in Cairo in Egypt. We have been following this very closely with SWIFT as a partner to SWIFT now for over 2 years, when SWIFT actually announced this adoption of the new regulations. And the deadline of these regulations is going to be November of this year in 2018. So we feel there is a lot of work that needs to be done within the banking sector, especially in Africa, where we have our interest actually to work in this country and other countries in Africa. And our solution, the solution is called FinStat. FinStat is basically a system that sits right next to the SWIFT network, and it takes all the information from the SWIFT to talk to all the other systems in the bank without making all the changes for the regulation in every single system in the bank. So we help the banks not to invest in too many developments in other systems, but to use our solution as a middleware solution to enrich all the messages with the new regulations, abiding by the new movement that I have mentioned, the GPI movement or the Global Payment Innovation Movement.
Right. So could you tell us how long have you been implementing this system, and what is the feedback of the users or beneficiaries?
Sure. Actually, we've been implementing this solution now for maybe 2 years or just a little bit less. We have about 14 customers in North Africa between Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco. We have now we are talking with many banks in Nigeria. We had a few meetings today with banks in Rwanda. We are talking at large with the African market. However, the main added value that we received as a feedback from our customers is the speed of implementation of the solution, because we are at the end of the day a plug-and-play system. We are standardized upon SWIFT. SWIFT is standard, so we plug on top of SWIFT. We take the data, as I said, we take all the messages and the data messages, and we enrich the data to the other systems. So basically, we are just a small middleware, a plug-and-play middleware, no need to integrate with any other system. So the speed is one thing. The second thing, of course, is the adoption of the standard completely, and having a roadmap for the next 3 years, because the changes that are happening today and in November are going to move to other types of messages. You know that the SWIFT messaging system or the platform has many different types of messages. Messages are related to payments, messages sometimes are related to stocks, messages are related to treasury bills, messages. There are so many different types of messages. So the movement is starting with the payment messages, but next year we will see other types of payment messages. What we have created in our solution is a standard format to be able to adopt new movements of change coming in the next 3 years. So I think this is for our clients today is something very comforting, that they don't need to make so much changes in the next few years to come.
Right. So you've pointed out that the system is time effective. Now talk to us about the cost. How cost effective is it in comparison with existing systems?
To tell you the truth, SWIFT is always very challenged, and their core work is to diminish or to lessen the cost of the SWIFT transaction. Because at the end of the day, SWIFT is a non-profit organization, and it belongs to all the members of the SWIFT. So the concept of bringing down the cost of the message is a core value at SWIFT, and this is what they're doing. And actually, when you look at the trend for the last 10 years, the cost of the message is decreasing on the member side. However, what we are pushing the banks now to do, especially that we are in an era, there is a very new terminology that has come out for a couple of years now called financial inclusion. And this means that I need to bring more people in the community to be able to transact with the banks. Today we have a very small community transacting with the banks in Africa, in our countries in Africa. We have a very limited amount of people who are transacting with SWIFT today, the big large companies mainly and some individuals. But what we are saying is that our populations are today have a great opportunity to be included financially with the banking solutions and banking systems. So basically, when the volume grows, the cost of the transaction will come down. It's automatically like a sort of a supply-demand concept. Is the more people who are demanding the transaction, supposedly the volume, the price is going to go down. One very important also aspect that we have to mention here, because there is a major disrupting technologies coming out right now, talking that they can replace SWIFT, or they can do better job than what SWIFT is doing. To tell you the truth, I must have a very serious message here, that whatever type of technology that the banks are going to use to transact together between each other messages, the problem will always be there for the time effectiveness, unless or until the banks create what we call an automated back office, where you do not need any manual intervention in the back office of the operations. As long as this problem exists in our banking community, use SWIFT, use blockchain technology, use whatever you want to use, you will still have the same problem, that when the message arrives or when the money arrives, it will not hit the beneficiary account, except until it goes in the network or in the different departments of the bank. So the fight here really, or the real problem today in the banking community, if you want to call it, is actually creating a straight-through processing environment in the operations of the back office of the systems. This is really the core, and this is what we are trying to create a value to our customers. Your problem is not in the connectivity, your problem is not in the messaging, your real problem is going through the different departments and how this message is handled within the departments of the bank until the money is credited or debited into the beneficiary accounts.